Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Stepping Up by me, Tindor, the Tiger Race, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Today, we are doing Chapter 36. What happened to all the teams? Don asked, baffled. Tibs gave him the side eyes, then went back to looking at the board. They died. That was what happened. What Tibs had trouble with was why so many of the Upsilon and Row teams had lost members. It noticed that there were fewer and fewer people at the inn, but until now, until now, he thought it was because everyone other than the loyal customers had moved to other places to eat because of the supply problem he was having that case. Conky. He thought it was because everyone other than the loyal customers were eating at other places because of the supply problem the inn was having. Just this morning, another shipment had arrived from Mountain Sea with many of the crates broken. The attendants couldn't be blamed since moving things using the platform didn't affect the item. So, Rosa's father was in Mountain Sea now, investigating why so many shipments were damaged by the people transporting them to the platform. 2 and 8 teams were on the board. The 8 first were nobles. Of the others, Tibs only recognized the names of half the team. Only recognize half the names. It meant that the leaders of the leader of the other other teams, now I have to say it, were a recent graduate to Upsilon, or some runners who had lost their leaders had to take over. There had never been so many deaths of runners with elements before. I get only the best survive, Don said, looking at Tibs a bit more dismayed and sneering. But you managed it, so more should have. Did you lose anyone on your team? Tibs asked. Looking to Radcliffe. Only team present. No. Don narrowed his eyes in suspicion. Are you implying I'm not good enough to keep them alive? Anyone know if they're bringing new conscript to fill the ranks? Jekyll asked. Some of the names are runners who graduated, but not many. Is there anyone left in the kingdom's cell to send? Mez asked. I do not believe there has ever been a need for so many conscript before, Kevlar said. From what I have learned in my travels, the first group is normally large enough to cause a dungeon to graduate. And then, people paying to run the dungeon suffice to continue feeding it. I guess they never had someone try to kill it before, Don said, glaring at Tibs, and have someone messing that up. Tibs glared at the back of the sorcerer. Don't tell me you were actually involved in with those people, Don, Karina said, annoyed. If they killed it, we wouldn't be here anymore, the sorcerer snapped. They wouldn't need us. Jekyll snorted. You were wrong, Tibs. He is an idiot. Watch your tongue! Don reached for Jekyll, but Tibs stepped front. The sorcerer's hand was surrounded with essence. Don't! Don grinned. Okay, here, I'm hoping this is enough to state, without having to say it, that this is Tibs. Don grinned evilly. If you want to suffer in this place, I'm more than happy to make it happen. The essence shifted, linked into strand that resembled barbed hook. Barbed hooks. And when he put his hand on Tibs' chest, they pumped corruption into his body. Tibs considered acting hurt, letting the sorcerer think his attack worked. But despite the danger, he wanted to put him in his place. He looked him in the eyes and didn't react. When Don's surprise turned to suspicion, Tibs realized having Don look into what he was up to could cause problem. So he misdirected the sorcerer. I was doused in corruption. You can't make enough to compare to that. Don snatched his hand away from Tibs, worry and annoyance on his face. Corruption is how he put people in their place. Just wonder how many of the runners watching the exchange would stop being afraid now that they saw one person as the sorcerer. To keep the sorcerer from lashing out later, Tibs stepped back and put effort into remaining standing. Jekyll held him by the shoulder, worried. Don sneered in triumph. You aren't worth my essence. Turned and left. Radcliffe following after giving Tibs a powerless shrug. Are you okay? Karina asked hurriedly. I thought I'm fine. Tibs cut her off and walked away from the board. Tibs took the essence and hesitated. Did Don continue to sense it once it was inside him? Could he, like Tibs did with water, have it acted at a distance? Or was this like Stowe, where Tibs' life force cut off the sorcerer's senses? Yet another question I couldn't ask. What's going to happen if too many of us die? Was asked as they walked. I think we have more important things to deal with, Jekyll replied, and lowered his voice. Tibs, what's going on? I thought you had the element. Jekyll then shook his head. What? The fighter demanded. Tibs eyed the archer. They had their problems, but they hadn't expected him to be so callous. Mez looked around to confirm no one was close. He's acting. Didn't raise an eyebrow. Come on, it's obvious. Dunn touched him, and Tibs didn't react at all. Only after a few seconds did he feel the pain. Probably to keep Don from throwing a tantrum. Is that what you were doing? Jekyll asked Tibs. Don's not an idiot, Tibs said, still acting as if he was in pain. He didn't care if it looked like they were alone. He knew how easy it was to eavesdrop. But he's also overconfident. So long as he thinks he has the upper hand, he won't worry that I resisted him a little. You scared me, Karina said, relieved. Sorry. So, I said, what's going to happen if all the teams die? That won't happen, Jekyll said. We are not going to die. As for the rest, that's the guild's problem, not us. Tibs massaged his chest, keeping up the act of being in pain for the few customers at the inn. 3 of the table were occupied, but none by runners. Tibs knew none of them, even by sight. People from other cities here for a visit. And the best we have from my favorite runners. Yusuf placed bowls of stew on their table, along with tankard of ales, then dropped in the extra seat. Stew's the best you have? Jekyll asked before digging in. Yusuf sighed. There's only so much you can do with low-quality meats. Russ going around, seeing who can sell us better cuts while Dad's back home. But no one has anything to sell. At this rate, we're not going to get anything until the next caravan's here in a few weeks, and they are going to jump at the chance to charge us far more than the meat's worth. Jekyll opened his mouth. There's the hand. Everyone's had a bad time, hon. This isn't your father targeting us. You can count on one hand the taverns with good meat. They aren't selling it since they have all those customers to feed now. Is it not nonetheless suspicious, Kendor said, that supplies coming from so many different places will arrive with spoiled food? Could your dad do this? Camino asked Jekyll. Jekyll thought about it. Don't know. He would do it, that's for sure. But he hasn't been here long enough to know where everyone's from and where they get their supplies from. You know what? Where everyone gets their supplies from. Normally I'd ask around. Get someone who has had contact with people around my father to tell me, but none of the guards are speaking with me right now. Seems that after a few of them have had accidents, none of them will go against my father's wishes. But none of them worked for him anymore, Miz asked. They've seen the kind of things my father can make happen while they worked for him, so they know what those accidents really are, and they will be quick to warn any New guards Knuckles brings in. Not that those would be of any use to me. He looked around the nearly empty inn. My father is the kind of man that can make a lot happen with a few well-placed words. Joseph squeezed Jekyll's arm. This isn't your fault. No, it's my father's. Some of the guard have items that let them lie to him, Tibs reminded the others. Have you been able to tell which ones? Rena asked. Tibs shook his head. I tracked down the one who spoke with your father, and I can't sense any magic on her. I expect this will not be what you wish to hear, I told Jackal after giving Tibs a calculating look. But would it not be best if you submitted to him? It would alleviate the trouble he is causing. It will allow you to plan without him always watching. He's spying on you? Joseph asked in surprise. Pickle shrugged. I feel the eyes of the people in Ipays, Cleric said, flicking his eyes to the occupied table on their left. Jekyll glared at the occupants. And one of the men grinned, raising a danger to him. They didn't care, but Jekyll knew, Tibs realized. Sebastian might even want him to know he was being watched. Joseph kept Jekyll from standing. You don't know my father, he told Kumdar. Submitting to him wouldn't make him stop hurting the people I care about. At this point, he'd do it just so I knew how much of a mistake defying him was. How about killing him? Rena offered, and Tibs stared at her. That felt drastic coming from her. Until he remembered what the dungeon had put them through. She might not come from the street like him, where that was a reasonable reaction to a threat, but she'd harden through the runs. It won't help, Jack replied. My father has orders in place to ensure that anything he considers his gets destroyed in the event of his death. Probably has something in place so even once time kills him, people will pay for letting that happen. Tibs thought over what Jekyll said and why he said it. This isn't his town. Settle here, Tibs, Jekyll replied darkly. As far as he's concerned, it's already his, and I can't think of any way to force him to leave, not that I'm sure he'd stop thinking of it as his if I managed it. It's not his town, Tibs stated. Studied the people at the table out of the corner of his eyes. They looked like the others in the inn, and Tibs suspected that if not for Kumdar's connection to darkness, he wouldn't know they were spies either. He knew about that. He needed to know who was spying on them, no matter what they looked like. But before to let the cleric keep this secret in the moment. Finished eating while working out how he would arrange this. Once he was done, he stood. Kumdar, I think it's time for my next lesson. He hadn't seen the spies before, so he hoped they didn't know his friends well enough to tell who usually did what. What lesson? Jekyll asked. His letters, the cleric replied, standing. Tibs seemed to react, but was surprised at the ease with which Kumdar picked up on his intent. You are welcome to accompany us. I am certain you too can benefit from more time practicing it. No thanks, Jekyll replied. You do have fun with that. He gave a questioning look to Crowset, who simply smiled and patted his arm. Remember, we're training later, Jekyll called after them. You're not going to protest? Tibs whispered as they exited. The woman who sat next to the man who had toasted Jekyll was following them, not bothering to pretend otherwise. It made Tibs think someone else would do so too, out of sight. No, I believe there is now too much happening for me to hold on to this particular secret. For as much as I enjoy being the only one who knows so much about this town, you are the one better able to put this ability to use in protecting it. You could just tell me what I need to know to protect everyone. Kumdar smiled. Relinquishing one secret is difficult enough. I do not believe I would be capable of telling you everything you need to know. You will have to gather those secrets on your own. And this concludes chapter 36 of Stepping Up. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next one's going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story book 1 or book 2, it is available for free on Royal Road, and you can read further ahead on my Patreon. And if you want to watch me do these live, I do this on Twitch. I record them every Tuesday morning, and the rest of the week I write 8 a.m. Eastern Time to 3:30 p.m. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.